Hi folks, welcome to our new video cast, My Life with Robert Burns. We're pleased you could join us. My name is Douglas Mackenzie, and together with my Newcomer at Burns Club friend and colleague, Jim Thompson.
Douglas.
Hi, Jim. I'd like to tell you a little bit about what we plan to do during these sessions. We've learned a wee bit about how to use the video chat technology, and that's allowed many of us to keep in touch with friends and family during the coronavirus lockdown. We thought we'd like to use it to introduce you to some of our cronies from around the Burns world, to allow you to get to know them a little bit better, and to hear a bit about what makes a Burnsian tick. For today's session, we're delighted to introduce a man who's kept us fascinated with his daily poems, every day since the start of lockdown. These poems can be seen on his Facebook page and on his own YouTube channel. Cronies everywhere, to tell us about his life with Robert Burns, please welcome Bobby Jess. Hi Bobby, how are you doing? Nice to see you.
And you.
Bobby, thanks for being our guest today on My Life with Robert Burns. How are you doing today?
I'm fine, Douglas. It's been a nice day. We got out a walk earlier on, and Mary's been painting the fence again, so I'm quite happy.
How many times do you ask that lassie to paint the fence now?
Well, I keep a checking her to make sure she's doing it right.
That's good. And she putting her coat on a week?
Just a bit. There's more in her than there is in the fence.
Very good. Well, it's nice to hear that Mary's looking after you anyway.
She certainly is.
Just to get us started with this chat, how about you telling us a little bit about yourself?
Well, my name's Bobby Jess. I'm long Sanker originally. I was born back in 1960, which means that I'll be 60 later this year. Went to school at Sanker Primary and Sanker Academy. Back then, you had to go down to Wallace Hall Academy down at Thornhill to sit your hires. So I was down at Wallace Hall for another year after that.
And what hires did you do? What kind of subjects were you interested in?
Oh, mostly maths, science, engineering, drawing, that side. Maths was my favourite subject. I studied with Open University, later on in life, and got a maths degree. So maths was almost my favourite subject.
And is that something you used when you started work?
Not directly, but I used it. I went into it to try and get out of the job I was in at that time. Just to open up other opportunities for me. And it worked. I was 2 years into the degree course when I got moved from the control technician's role into the finance department at the work at the time.
All right. And were you in the same company all your time? Well,
I actually served my apprenticeship as a colliery electrician up at the Barney Pit in Ayrshire. So I was there I started in 78 and I left the year after, 87. The pit was going to shut. I didn't know when it would shut, and I got an opportunity with a good job down at ICI in Dumfries. Mary and I were going to get married that year, and she worked in Dumfries, so it was a no-brainer to leave the pit and move to Dumfries.
So you decided to emigrate?
I come down amongst the Doonhamers.
Yeah. So what kind of job was it?
Carry on, Jim.
What kind of job was it you got at ICI? Was it the same thing, an electrician?
It was. A control technician, electrical instrument. The problem with that was that you were really I qualified for my chief electrical engineer's paper with the coal board and had a promotion or two there. So whereas you were writing permits underground for up to 6.6 kilovolt equipment, when I went to ICI, I had to get a permit for a fitter to change a light bulb, and you know, I felt I wasn't even used, you know, as well as I might. So, and you were in dead man's shoes, so I really had to try and go another route to progress. And that's what I did. I worked the rest of my career with ICI, then DuPont Asian Films at the finish up.
So did ICI get taken over by DuPont? Is that how it worked?
They sold in the late 90s. Things changed all the time. You know, the business is getting harder and harder all the time. The competition for the Far East is phenomenal for that line of work. So it got more and more difficult. But they're still there, and they're diversifying all the time into other products. New products is a big thing for them.
I take it when you say they're still there, I take it you're not now.
Well, luckily enough, I got the opportunity to retire early last year. That was me at 58-year-old. And the opportunity came up that I didn't want to miss. I had other plans, and it was all focused around about my love for Burns. And that was today, Burns Tours in Dumfries.
Before you tell us about that, how did you first get involved with your interest in Burns?
Well, that's a weird one, quite out of the blue. I was the president of a bowling club in Dumfries, Maxilton Bowling Club, back in 1996, which you well know was the bicentenary of the poet's death.
Mm-hmm. And
the committee decided that they wanted to commemorate that by holding a big bowling competition. There was over 190 odd bowlers. There were dignitaries for the local council who helped fund it, the Burns Federation, the president, Murdo Morrison, and the guest of honour was Group Captain Richard Gowran, the great grandson of Burns. Now, at that time, I can honestly say I knew absolutely nothing about Robert Burns. But there was something said that day, or maybe it was just embarrassment that I knew nothing, and listening to the other guests speaking, you know, that something clicked with me, and I decided at the end of the day that I would buy a Burns book and learn a wee bit of Burns. As the president, I had to chair the Burns Supper the following January. And by that time, I'd learned Willie Wassell, and I did that at the Burns Supper, and that was me started. I was hooked, and it just exploded from then on.
So that was your first poem. That was your first recitation.
That was the first one I learned. A nice wee easy one.
Was that your first Burns Supper at the bowling club?
It was the year prior to that. The vice president of the club I was asked to do the toast to the lassies. So that was actually my first Burns Supper the year previous to it. But as I said, I knew nothing about Burns. So to do my toast to the lassies, what we actually did, there was a short guy, Ian Donaldson, who was a good singer and entertainer. And between the 2 years, we wrote a script in the form of Rab C. Nisbet and Wee Burney. And we did a comedy sketch at the Burns Supper. We came in as if we'd gate crashed a Burns Supper and acted a comedy sketch. I made my apologies at the end of it that I hope I hadn't offended Burns. You know. So that was actually my first one. Even that didn't entice me to come back. It was the bowling competition and what I heard at the bowling competition that convinced me there was something there that I liked.
And did you go on and join a Burns club after that?
That was, it was many years later before I actually joined the Burns club. Even though I was getting asked to speak and do recitations at bowling clubs mostly, first of all, it wasn't until I met Wally Dick, and Wally and Jim McPheeter gave me the Tam the Bonnets script and told me to learn that poem. And the hassled me, it kept on at me until I'd learnt it, and they says, oh, thank goodness for that, you're doing it at the New Come Nut Smoker in a couple of weeks' time.
and how did you know Willie Dick and Jim McFeeter?
I met Willie the year I was right worshipful master of a Masonic lodge in Dumfries back in 2004, and Willie happened to be the right worshipful master at Sanker, and we met at our burn supper, and we found that with so much in common. I come from Sanker. Willie was a master at Sanker. Willie's father, his mother lodge was my mother lodge. The brother that had seconded Willie's dad into Freemasonry was actually sitting in the audience. And with a lovely Freemasonry in Burns, the two years just hit it off, and well, we've been best pals ever since.
When you perform your poetry, and if you take Turn the Bonnet, for example, I mean, it's very much a performance poem. Was that the first one that you did that required a bit of acting?
Yeah, definitely. Jim McFeeter had got it, I think it was Charlie McGonigal, for Turboughton, that he said that.
No, Charlie, he's dead now. He was from Springside originally, but stayed in Chris House.
Well, when he died, Jim McFeeter had a copy of the poem, and Jim had tried to learn it, and he said, oh, this doesn't sit right with me, but I know who it will sit with. And it was Jim that gave it to me and asked me to learn it. And well, I wish I'd have pound for every time I've done it. For every one Tam O'Shanter I must say, recite a burn supper, I must say done 20 Tam the Bonnets.
And have you ever thought to add them up, work out how many you've actually done?
No chance. I couldn't tell you.
So is it in the hundreds?
Oh, aye.
Aye.
Yeah, you can be upwards of 20 burn suppers, a season.
Have you a record for that? Willie Dick often talks about, having gone to something like 38 burn suppers.
Oh, no, I'll be just around the 20 mark.
Aye. I think Jim Thompson's done a few in his years gone by as well.
The most I've done is 37. That was in the 2008. I did 37. And the year I was president, I did 34. President of the Federation, I did 34. But just talking about Willie and the Masons, did you find it was an easier step into Burns being a member of the Masonic, organisation, purely and simply with their history and relationship to Burns himself?
I mean, Burns and the Freemason go hand in hand, Jim.
Right.
There'll hardly be a lodge in Scotland where there isn't a portrait of Burns in the wall. And Burns, the Freemasons helped Burns get where he was. There's no question of that. And I think the best thing about the Freemasons in Burns, when Burns became a Freemason, he was in a level playing field with all the rest. There wasn't this kind of class distinction in there. And as you well know, in the level, the cream always rises to the top. And Burns found it easy to be the top man in the lodge. It was only about 2 or 3 years after joining, he was a deputy master. And he was a Freemason for the rest of his life, and was welcomed all over the country.
What have you done in your Burns career, Bobby? Have you held office in any clubs?
No. My problem. I don't particularly like being on the committees and then the grafting work that's in a club. I'm not one of these that go for collecting medals, for this and that. So I've no real ambition to be a president, the figurehead of it. Certainly not in the Burns circle. I've been asked to, I was in the committee in Newcombe for a couple of years, but I was finding it a chore to get up to Newcombe. Couldn't, unless I can do it 100%, I don't really want to commit to it.
And I suppose with the amount of readings you're doing at suppers, there's a big commitment there, because obviously you've got to keep your poetry topped up. That must take quite a lot of time, especially if you're doing different things at different suppers.
It can be. You've got to get the poems in there, and it takes you a wee while. And if you're doing different ones in different nights, it can be. You try and wipe your mind clear of one before you get another one in there. Especially with Tam O'Shanter and Tam the Bunnet, it's easy to cross between the two.
So what clubs are you actually a member of, apart from Newcombe? Are you down at Dumfries?
I'm a member of the House Club in Dumfries. I was asked to go in the committee there if I'd consider it, but I declined for the reasons I've just said. I'm too busy, to be honest, with other stuff. I've also got ties with the Black Joanne at Sanker, Kirkconnell Burns Club. I'm close with a lot of them up there. And I love going up to the Bachelors Club at Turboughton when Joe Kennedy, God bless him, ran them up there. I love those suppers. So they're the real kind of Burns clubs. I organise suppers for my own Masonic Lodge down at Dumfries and my bowling club. So,
which bowling club is it? Just to give them a mention.
Marchmount Bowling Club. But the thing with organising it and inviting good speakers to come, more often than not, they like to invite you back. So the more times you're trying to organise them, the more commitments you're getting elsewhere. I think the working was Stephen and Victoria Hasty. They came down and helped us out at the bowling club, and the next thing I was getting asked to do the toast to the lassies at Sanker Primary School. Now that's difficult.
Aye.
All the primary kids and doing the toast to the lassies. But I must admit it was one of the best suppers I've been at. I love trying to promote the kids, and when you see them getting up and reciting and singing, they're only that height. Brett, your heart's bursting with pride. Loved it.
The talent level is actually, I mean, I do a lot of schools in the Kilmarnock area every year and judge their Burns competitions, if you like. And the talent of some of these, particularly the sort of primary 5, 6, 7s, is absolutely amazing. And it's nice to hear that folk are taking their time in their own local community to actually put a bit of effort in with these people.
It's great to work with at primary school and see the kids going from sort of primary 1 all the way through and seeing the improvement year on year. It's tremendous.
There's no many progress through to adult Burns clubs, and I'd love to see that happening. When I've done the Masonic lodges for a few years there, I deliberately invited a couple of kids for the supper, and they would recite or sing, and then they would leave at half time when the more adult humour would start. The audience loved seeing the kids. It's great to see them. And
getting back to your readings and your recitations, do you have a favourite poem?
There's so many I like. I mean, I'm very fond of John Laprake, because there was a competition for that up at Muirkirk, and you're really battling that into your head. So Laprake's.
That's a competition that you won. You'd be quite modest about
that. It's one of my favourites. I mean, Tam O'Shanter's a brilliant poem. The Whole Affair, I think The Whole Affair is one where you can see Burns painting a picture, and you've got this scene run about you all the time, and he takes you there, and that's what I love about some of the poems. the epistles are, I think that's where you see into Burns, Ken, and how he relates to other people and his empathy for everyone. So the
Is there any of these poems that you could give us a verse or so of?
Oh, well, in the epistle to David, it's no in titles nor in rank, it's no in wealth like London Bank to purchase peace and rest. It's no in Mackin, Muckle, Mayor. It's no in books, it's no in Lear to make us truly blessed. If happiness in our seat and centre in the breast, we may be wise, rich or great, but never can be blessed. No treasures, no pleasures could make us happy land. The heart side, the party that makes us recht or wrong.
Fantastic sentiment.
Aye, it is. There's so many of them.
Aye. I hear you're a bit of a poet yourself, right enough.
Well,
any aims or goals or ambitions in that area personally?
I mean,
Apart from staying out the jail with some of the stuff you like.
it was, I don't know how it started. I don't ask me my first one that I wrote myself. I honestly haven't a clue. But it was all around about the work, and if anything happened, somebody did something daft, then I would write a wee poem about it, and it just, you know, the folk expected it, and there were times I wrote them, I can't get into bother, so just write an on, but that didn't work. Not the way it was.
What right up to name your poems, Bobby?
I got that. They wanted to sack me for writing a poem. I maybe share that one, just change a couple of names.
You've become pretty well known with your daily poems since the start of lockdown. What triggered that off? What gave you that idea?
It wasn't. I never gave it a thought that to do this for long. There was a Masonic Facebook, and they were going on about what you do at the Harmony, you know, the fun after the meetings. Mm-hmm. And for me, it was a couple of daft poems. So I just put two on Facebook. And after the second one, I was getting pushed to put them onto YouTube and give us more. And then, of course, some of my friends decided to join me, including your two good selves, and see where it is, and the number of people that are messaging you, you know, it's very, very much appreciated. There's a lot of people.
You've become a kind of international phenomenon.
Nah.
But some of the other folk, Bobby, that you've got on, I mean, people I'd never heard of before, like the boy Maxwell. I mean, I didn't even know who he was. I mean, there's some talent out there that you're promoting.
Yeah. I mean, that's the big thing for me, is trying to encourage people, perhaps that have never written a poem before in their life, to have a wee go. And I mean, I've had people ask me, what's the best Burns book to get? You know, so our efforts have sparked an interest in Burns, a Scots language, just with doing our wee bit fun. And that to me is great, that we can promote Burns just with doing what we're doing. You know, when I tell them, I'm saying, right, I want a poem back from you once you've learned it.
And you were about to talk earlier on about your second career and guided Burns tours. Can you tell us a bit about that?
I mean, the area has been sadly lacking in promoting Burns, you know, for a long time. There used to be a gentleman did tours around the town, and I know the House Club hosts other clubs, but when you see what Dumfries has got to offer and the number of people that you see coming to town and just wandering about, I thought, no, that we can do more here. And it was just an idea I had. I'd had a couple of Masonic lodges that asked me to host their visits, and I'd done that previous to retiring, and we had a great day, and it gave me the idea, this is something you could do for a hobby. It's not to make a living, it's just a hobby, and it worked well. I did it last year, and with some great days, and meeting people from all over the globe. You know.
So where have you had people from?
A good number of Americans, Canadians, Colombian lassie, a Japanese girl, Romania, Australia, even some English.
Aye. And have you had any Burns clubs come as a big group?
Well, I had been asked to host. There was one coming, but it's from Kilwinning, but they've obviously had to cancel. I had about 3 bookings this year that I was really looking forward to, but I've had to cancel them all or postpone them, certainly, probably to next year now. They're good. I mean,
They tell me you'd a bit of a problem with some reprobates from East Ayrshire.
You can say that. Five of the cronies when you come down to give me a wee run through, and I was due to meet them. I think it was 11 o'clock, and I went into Dumfries to get a new shirt. I was going to get dressed up for the occasion, and Mary and I went into the coffee shop to have a coffee. No, before we went home, and I get the phone call for Willie. Where are you? I said, I'm in here. Oh, we'll be there in 10 minutes. He says, what? First time ever that Willie Dick's been early. So, and then I get slagged off for being a scruff.
I take it a wee run through was a kind of euphemism for something else.
Well, what they did do, Jim, and I'll tell you this, they've been Googling hard questions all the way down. They were hitting me with these hard questions. But as you know, the guests have heard when we got to the Globe, we sat down and we got into the snug bar, and the Usquo Bay was flowing and we were singing and carrying on. He was getting a wee bit telling us to keep it down, you'll get thrown out. I said, oh no.
Yeah.
One of the biggest parties I had was there were 28 American Masons across, hosts up in Kelty, up in Fife, and my friend asked me if I'd host them. So 28 to 30 people around one time, and that was quite a task to keep as many, close. So that was the biggest one I had.
You've got a lot of knowledge of Burns contemporaries. Is there anybody in the Burns story that you would regard as a hero or a particular character that you like to know more about?
I mean, the biggest hero for me with Burns was his father, William Burness. If it wasn't for his father, Burns wouldn't have been what he was. The learning, the education that his father gave him. The others, I mean, the ones that influenced Burns for me were the ones earlier on in his life, Richard Brown and his Irvine days, and David Siller, as mentioned earlier. And they were the ones that were promoting Burns when he was needing it. By the time he got to Dumfries, everybody knew who Robert Burns was. But there's some interesting characters in the graveyard.
There seems to be some tremendous stories around the graveyard.
It's certainly keeping the interest going, and I'm learning all the time as well. And I can see people in the future asking, where's this grave and where's that, and tell us that story again. I mean, you're only getting wee snippets, in my daily posts. There's a lot more to tell. I didn't like writing long screeds about folk and boring folk.
I think you've hit it just right, because it's enough to spark people's interest, and if they want to know more, they can go and find out more.
I mean, one was Elizabeth Crichton, you know, and the wee bit I put about her, and Willie Dalglish posts about, you know, back down memory lane. He elaborated on that, and I found it interesting just listening to the extra stuff. And they've got a tie-up back to Sanker as well, which was good for me. So
have you got any ambitions left in your Burns life? Is there any particular poems that you would like to learn, or any aspect of Burns that particularly interests you?
I'd like to learn the Twa Dogs and do it as a duet with somebody. I think that would be one that I'd like to ping off. I've been amazed with some of my friends and their repertoire. Billy Horn, for instance. Oh, hell. If you'd half the memory of that man, you'd be something else. I love listening to good speakers. I don't consider myself to be a great speaker by any stretch, and I love listening to good speakers and trying to learn from them and just be better myself and more comfortable. I mean, every burn supper, I'm nervous as get it, you know.
Don't ever lose that. Don't ever lose it, because I think that's the end. And the thing is, reading poems is about engagement. It's not about knowing the words. You well know that, and you're wonderful at it. I mean, that Tam the Bunnet is just, it's a force majeure. It really is. And you should never ever give that up, because it's one of the most entertaining turns I think folk can see at a Burns event.
I'll soon need an oxygen cylinder when I've finished it.
You certainly cycle a mile or two.
It's good fun. And I mean, Hugh Waters has got loads of brilliant poems here. You know, I like Hugh Waters as well.
Well, Bobby, is there anything else that we should be asking you about that we've missed?
I don't think so.
Because we've given you a fair grilling. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you continue with getting these daily poems up, because there's certainly a big part of my day every morning with my coffee watching the poems on YouTube.
I appreciate that, and I mean, I appreciate all the help from yourself, Jim, and all the others. I mean, I can't believe the support and the camaraderie that we're all having. You know, it's brilliant. And I'm getting new speakers or new entertainers all the time. And it's getting harder for myself. And I would like to just slip in and do an audience now and again as well.
I think there's an expectation that there's a poem from Bobby Jess every day.
Well, when I was a little late the other day, and Billy Horn still never would have slept in.
I am. You have a lie-in Sunday morning or something. The rod you've made for your own back has been made, but you remember. No,
we've all thoroughly enjoyed it, Bobby. So thanks for that, and thanks for giving up your time to chat with us today. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Bobby.
My pleasure.
Thanks, Bobby.
Cheers, pal.